The council chamber stretched high above the delegates, its crystal dome showing the stars beyond. Ambassador Velthar stood at the center platform, his forearms gesturing as he spoke to the gathered representatives. His voice echoed through the vast space. "I present evidence that humans were real," he said, holding up a data crystal. "They existed. They fought. They saved us." Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Telkaran delegate clicked his mandibles in amusement. The Kixian counselors whispered among themselves, their skin shifting through colors that showed doubt and mockery. "Fairy tales," someone called out. "Children's stories to make us feel brave." Yuna sat in the observer's gallery, her hands clenched tight. She was young for a historian, barely 30 cycles old, and her supervisor Minho sat beside her with his arms crossed. He looked bored, his dark eyes scanning the chamber with little interest. "They're not listening," Yuna whispered. "They never do," Minho replied. "Humans are mythology, Yuna. Everyone knows that. The great warriors who united the galaxy, fought the devourer swarms, then vanished into light. It's a legend parents tell their children. But what if it's not?" Minho turned to look at her. "Then where are they? Why leave? Why abandon the galaxy they supposedly saved?" Yuna had no answer. She watched as Velthar's presentation ended in dismissal. The council moved on to other matters, leaving the question of humanity unanswered once more. Later that evening, Yuna returned to the archives alone. The vast library held millions of records from thousands of worlds dating back tens of thousands of years. She had spent months searching through the oldest files, the ones that most historians ignored because they were corrupted or incomplete. She found something 3 hours past midnight. The file was buried deep, marked as damaged data from the last Great War. Most of it was unreadable, but there were fragments, coordinates, a name, the Exodus fleet, and a message in a language that her translator struggled to process at first. "We go not to die, but to live. We go not to forget, but to remember. If darkness returns, we shall return. Watch for the signal. Terra remembers Terra, the human homeworld, a place that existed only in stories." Yuna's heart raced. She copied the files and spent the rest of the night trying to decrypt more data. By morning, she had something incredible: coordinates to a location in the forbidden sectors, the quarantined regions of space where the final battles of the old war had taken place. She brought her findings to Minho the next day. He sat in his office, reviewing her data with growing skepticism on his face. This could be anything. Corrupted data often creates patterns that look meaningful. "Look at this part," Yuna insisted, pointing to the screen. "These coordinates are precise. They're not random. And there's more. I found 3 other references to the same location in different archives, from different species, all from the time humans supposedly disappeared." Minho leaned back in his chair. He was older, experienced, and had seen many young historians chase impossible theories. But something in Yuna's eyes made him pause. "Even if this is real," he said slowly, "the forbidden sectors are dangerous. No one goes there. The radiation levels alone would kill most species. We have protection suits. Modern ships can handle it. And if we find nothing, then we find nothing. But if we find something..." Yuna's voice trembled with excitement. "If humans were real, if they left something behind, we need to know. We need to understand why they left." Minho stared at the data for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. "I'll request a research vessel, but we do this quietly. If word gets out that we're chasing human legends, we'll be laughed out of the academy." 2 weeks later, they departed on a small research ship with a crew of 5. But as they prepared for their journey, news reached them from the outer rim that changed everything. A colony world called Vexen Prime had gone silent. When scout ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing but ash. The entire planet had been stripped to its core, 12 million people gone. The scouts reported seeing strange ships, massive and organic-looking, that moved like living things. Then another world fell silent. And another. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Reports came in of a new enemy, the Ravager Collective. They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Their ships could adapt to weapons in real time, learning and changing. They consumed everything, breaking down matter to fuel their expansion. "How many ships do they have?" a counselor demanded. "Estimates suggest thousands," the military commander replied. But they're building more from the materials they harvest. Every world they take makes them stronger. Panic spread through the council. The galaxy had known peace for 200 years. Their military forces were small, divided among different species and territories. They had no unified command, no shared strategy. We need to unite the fleet, someone suggested. Under whose command? The Telkaran? The Kixian? We can't agree on trade routes, much less military strategy. Watching from the gallery, Yuna felt a chill run through her. The devourer swarms had been like this, according to the legends. Unstoppable, adaptive, consuming. And in the legends, only humans had found a way to defeat them. We need to go, she told Minho urgently. Now. The council will need every resource. The council is arguing while worlds burn, Yuna interrupted. If there's even a chance that humans left something behind, something that could help us, we have to find it. Minho looked at the chaos unfolding in the chamber below. Delegates were shouting at each other, blaming, accusing. No unity, no hope. You really believe they were real? He asked quietly. Yuna met his eyes. I believed that if they were real, they didn't leave without reason. And I believe that if they left a message saying they would return if darkness came back, maybe they meant it. 3 days later, their small ship slipped away from the core worlds and headed toward the forbidden sectors. Behind them, the Ravagers destroyed 2 more worlds. The death count was in the billions and rising. Far ahead in the dark spaces between stars, old machines began to wake. Sensors activated. Monitoring systems that had waited for centuries suddenly detected the destruction. Data flowed through ancient networks. The darkness had returned, and somewhere impossibly far away, an alarm began to sound. The research ship emerged from faster-than-light travel into a graveyard. Debris floated everywhere. Massive chunks of metal and composite materials that had once been space stations and warships. Some pieces were larger than their entire vessel. Radiation levels are high but manageable, the pilot reported. We can proceed. Yuna stared out the viewport at the destruction. This was the Kelton system, one of the last recorded battle sites of the ancient war. Nothing lived here anymore. Nothing had lived here for 247 years. There, Minho said, pointing to something on the scanner. That structure. It's still generating power. They moved closer. What appeared was a station, smaller than the others but intact. Its lights were still on, pulsing in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. That's impossible, the pilot breathed. Nothing runs for centuries without maintenance. Human technology did, Yuna said softly. According to the legends, they docked carefully, wearing protective suits as they entered the station. The airlock opened smoothly as if it had been waiting for them. Inside, the lights brightened automatically, responding to their presence. The station's interior was strange. Everything was built for human proportions, smaller than what most species needed. The writing on the walls was in the old human language, but their translators worked, displaying the meanings. Medical bay, armory, command center, archives, Minho read the signs aloud. It's a military station. They found the archives deep in the station's core. Rows of data storage units hummed quietly, perfectly preserved. Yuna approached the main terminal, her hands shaking as she activated it. A hologram appeared. A human woman, or what the legend said humans looked like. She had brown skin, dark hair tied back, and eyes that looked tired but determined. If you're seeing this, then the darkness has returned, the hologram said. My name is Commander Jian Park. I'm leaving this message for whoever comes after us, human or otherwise. Yuna and Minho stood frozen, watching. We didn't die. We didn't abandon you. We left because we had no choice. The devourer swarms pushed us to the edge of extinction. Of the 12 billion humans who fought in this war, only 800 million survived. Our homeworlds are ruins. Our fleets are destroyed. If we stay, if we try to rebuild here, the next threat will finish what the swarm started. The hologram paused, and sadness crossed her face. So we're going away, far away, to another galaxy where we can heal, rebuild, and become strong again. But we're leaving these stations behind. We're leaving sensors throughout the old battle zones. If something like the swarms returns, we'll know, and we'll come back. That's our promise. Watch for the signal beacon. If you need us, activate it. Terra never forgets her allies. The message ended. The terminal displayed coordinates for 15 other stations like this one, scattered across the forbidden sectors. And in the center of the network, a single point marked as primary beacon. They were real, Minho whispered. The humans were real. Yuna was crying, though she didn't notice at first. All her life she'd been told that heroes were just stories, that the galaxy had saved itself, that humans were mythology created to give people false hope. But they had been real, and they had promised to return. They spent 2 days exploring the station and downloading every file they could access. The data was enormous: military records, personal logs, technical specifications for human ships and weapons, and most importantly, a complete historical account of the last war written by those who fought it. On the 3rd day, they received a visitor. A ship appeared on their scanners, moving fast. It was a mercenary vessel, armed but not military. The captain hailed them. "This is Captain Hyun of the Wandering Star. You're in restricted space." "State your purpose," Minho responded. "We're researchers from the Galactic Archives. We have proper authorization." There was a pause. Then, "You found a human station, didn't you?" Yuna and Minho exchanged glances. "How do you know?" Yuna asked. "Because my grandfather told me stories. Everyone said he was crazy. He claimed he fought alongside a human named Taman in the last days of the war. He described stations like this, kept powered by technology that never dies. He gave me something before he passed away." The communication switched to video. Captain Hyun appeared, a Telkaran with scarred carapace and knowing eyes. He held up a medallion, metallic and worn. It showed an image of a blue and green planet with white clouds, and beneath it, a word in human language: Terra. "My grandfather said if I ever found these stations, I should help whoever discovered them. He said humans would keep their promises even if it took centuries. So I'll ask you directly, what did you find?" Yuna made a decision. "We found the truth, and we found a way to call them back." Hyun's ship docked with the station. When he entered, he moved through the human-sized corridors with difficulty, but there was reverence in his movements. He touched the walls gently as if greeting old friends. "My grandfather described this," he said. "The way everything feels purposeful. Humans built things to last." They showed him the message from Commander Ji-yeon. He watched in silence, his expression unreadable. "The beacon," he said when it finished. "Where is it?" Yuna displayed the coordinates. 3 weeks' travel from here. In the Hollow Rim, at the edge of charted space. "That's deep into dangerous territory," Hyun warned. "The Hollow Rim is full of spatial anomalies. One wrong calculation and your ship gets torn apart." "We have to try," Yuna insisted. "The Ravagers have destroyed 17 systems now. The Council's fleets can't stop them. Every engagement ends in defeat. If there's any chance that humans can help, then we go," Hyun finished. "My ship is faster and better armed than yours. I'll guide you through the rim." They departed the next day. Behind them, the station's lights continued to pulse, waiting patiently for humans who might never return. As they traveled, news from the core worlds grew worse. The Ravagers had destroyed Pelion Prime, an industrial center that housed 30 billion people. The Council's combined fleet had tried to stop them and been annihilated. 300 ships destroyed in less than 4 hours. "They're not just consuming resources," Minho observed, studying the battle reports. "They're searching for something. Look at this pattern. They're targeting old war sites, places where the Devourer swarms were destroyed." "What could they be looking for?" Yuna asked. "Data, technology. Maybe the swarms left something behind and the Ravagers want it." It was a terrifying thought. The Ravagers were already unstoppable. If they gained access to swarm technology, they might become something even worse. 3 weeks later, they reached the Hollow Rim. Space itself seemed twisted here, colors shifting in ways that hurt to look at. Hyun navigated carefully, his years of experience showing as he guided them through channels that appeared and disappeared. "There," he announced, "the beacon." It was a massive structure, a tower of metal and energy floating in the void. It was larger than any station they'd seen, and it was completely intact. As they approached, systems activated automatically. Lights blazed to life. The beacon began to hum with power that had been waiting centuries to be used. They docked. The entrance accepted them, scanning their vessel and finding them harmless. Inside, the command chamber was vast and filled with technology that made even Hyun's experienced crew gasp in wonder. At the center was a single control panel with one large activation switch. Above it, words in multiple languages, for use in the return of darkness. "Activate to summon the Terran fleet. Do not use lightly. They will come." Yuna's hand hovered over the switch. Behind her, Minho and Hyun waited. "Billions are dying," she said quietly. "The galaxy is falling apart. If we don't do this, there may be nothing left to save." She pressed the switch. The beacon exploded with light, sending a signal outward faster than any ship could travel. It pierced through dimensions, reaching across the vast dark between galaxies. It carried a simple message in human code. "The darkness has returned. We call for aid. Please come home." For 3 days, nothing happened. They waited in the beacon station, monitoring the signal, hoping for a response. On the 4th day, Minho suggested they return to council space and help with evacuation efforts. Then, on the 5th day, something answered. Space tore open. Reality bent, and through the impossible rift, ships began to emerge, hundreds of them. Then thousands, ships bearing the symbol of Terra, the blue planet. Ships built with technology that made the beacon look primitive. Ships that moved with purpose and power. And at the head of the fleet, a command vessel transmitted a response. "We heard your call. We're coming home. Hold on." The human fleet hung in space like a promise kept. Yuna counted the ships on her scanner and stopped when she reached 3,000. There were more coming through the rift, more arriving every minute. "They really came back," she whispered. A communication signal reached their ship. The voice was human, speaking in the old language, but the translators worked perfectly. "This is Admiral Nari Kwan of the Terran Defense Fleet to the vessel at the beacon. Please identify yourselves." Yuna activated the response channel with trembling hands. "This is researcher Yuna of the Kixian species. We activated the beacon. The galaxy needs help. We're being destroyed by something called the Ravager Collective." There was a brief pause. "Understood. We've been monitoring the situation since your beacon activated. We're going to need detailed information about the current galactic situation, military capabilities, and enemy composition. Can you travel to our command ship?" Yes, we can." 20 minutes later, their small vessel docked with the human flagship. The ship was enormous, easily 5 times the size of the largest vessels in the Galactic Council's fleet. The corridors were built for human proportions, which meant Yuna and Minho could walk comfortably, but Hyun had to crouch. "This is amazing," Hyun breathed, running his clawed hand along the wall. "The materials, the construction, the power flow. This is centuries beyond what we have." They were escorted to a conference room where Admiral Nari waited. She was tall for a human, with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. 2 others stood with her, a younger man in a military uniform and a woman wearing an engineer's outfit. "I'm Admiral Nari Kwan," she said, shaking their hands in the human greeting. "This is Commander Day, my Chief Tactical Officer, and Engineer Jiwon, head of our Technology Integration Division. Please sit. Tell us everything." They talked for 3 hours. Yuna and Minho explained the current state of the galaxy, the fractured council, the military weaknesses. Hyun provided tactical assessments from his mercenary experience. They showed footage of the Ravagers, the destroyed worlds, the failed military engagements. Commander Day watched the battle recordings with intense focus. He was younger than the Admiral, maybe 40 in human years, with sharp features and hands that moved quickly as he took notes on a handheld device. "They adapt," he observed, "like the old swarms did. Every time your forces use the same tactic twice, the Ravagers counter it. That's why you're losing. Can you stop them?" Minho asked. Admiral Nari's expression was hard to read. "Possibly. But I need to be honest with you. We didn't come back out of pure kindness. We came back because we made a promise, and because if the Ravagers aren't stopped here, they'll eventually find us in our new home." "You have a new home?" Yuna asked. "An entire galaxy," Engineer Jiwon said with a slight smile. "We call it New Terra. 53 colonized systems, 20 billion humans and allies we've made among the species we found there. We've spent 2 centuries rebuilding, learning, and advancing. We're not the desperate refugees who fled this galaxy anymore." "Then you can save us," Yuna said hopefully. "On our terms," Admiral Nari replied firmly. "The last time we fought for this galaxy, we nearly went extinct. We lost 12 billion people. Entire bloodlines ended. We're not going to make that mistake again. We'll fight, but this time we fight smart. We fight as equals, not as saviors. And if your council has a problem with that, they can try handling the Ravagers themselves." Her words were cold, but Yuna understood the pain behind them. The legends had always made humans seem noble and selfless. But the truth was more complicated. They had sacrificed everything once and had barely survived. They wouldn't do it again. The council will meet with you? Mino asked. They will. We've already sent a message. We'll arrive in council space in 2 days. Those 2 days felt like years. Word of humanity's return spread through the galactic network faster than any ship could travel. Reactions were mixed. Some species were hopeful, grateful that the ancient defenders had returned. Others were suspicious, asking why humans had abandoned them in the first place. A few were outright hostile, seeing humans as a threat to their own power. When the human fleet arrived at the Council's homeworld, millions watched from the surface and from orbital stations. The fleet moved in perfect formation, a display of discipline and power that made the Council's own military look disorganized by comparison. The Council chamber was packed. Every species sent representatives. Even those who had been at war with each other for decades showed up to see the humans who were supposed to be mythology. Admiral Nari entered with her command staff. Commander Day, Engineer Jiwan, and 5 others walked behind her. They moved with confidence, unfazed by the stares and whispers. Ambassador Velthar, who had tried to prove humans existed, stood and bowed deeply. "Welcome home," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "Thank you," Admiral Nari replied. "But this isn't our home anymore. We've come because we were called. We've come because darkness has returned. We're here to help, but we need to establish something first." She activated a holographic display showing the current war situation. Red markers showed destroyed systems. Yellow marked those under attack. Green showed what remained safe, and there wasn't much green left. "You're losing," Nari said bluntly. "Not because you're weak, but because you're divided. The Ravagers fight as one. You fight as individuals. That has to change," a Telkaran counselor stood angrily. "You abandon us for centuries and return to give orders?" Commander Day stepped forward before the Admiral could respond. "We didn't abandon you. We barely escaped with our lives. Would you rather we had stayed and died? Would dead heroes be more useful to you now?" The council chamber erupted in argument. Some defended the humans. Others accused them of cowardice. Voices rose, overlapping, chaotic. Admiral Nari waited. She stood calm and still while the storm of voices raged around her. After 5 minutes, she raised her hand, and something about the gesture made the chamber fall silent. "Here's what's going to happen," she said quietly, but her voice carried to every corner of the massive room. "We're going to share our tactical knowledge, our technology, and our experience. Commander Day will coordinate fleet operations. Engineer Jiwan will work with your scientists to upgrade your defenses. We'll provide support ships and weapons." "In exchange for what?" someone demanded. "In exchange for you following our lead in military matters. We're not asking for political control. We're not asking for your resources or your territory. We're asking that when it comes to fighting the Ravagers, you trust the people who defeated the Devourer swarms." The chamber was silent now. Everyone remembered the legends. The swarms had been unstoppable until humans found a way. "If you can't accept that," Nari continued, "we'll leave. We'll go home to New Terra and you can face the Ravagers alone. But know this, they won't stop with your galaxy. Once they've consumed everything here, they'll keep going. They'll find us eventually. We're choosing to fight them here now while we have allies. But we won't sacrifice ourselves for people who won't work with us." "We accept," Ambassador Velthar said immediately. "Speaking for the Kixian Concordat, we accept your terms." Slowly, other species began to agree. Not all of them, but enough. The largest military powers, the most desperate systems, the ones who had lost the most. Captain Hyun, watching from the gallery beside Yuna and Minho, clicked his mandibles in approval. She's smart. She gave them a choice but made it clear what the right choice is. Over the next week, the transformation began. Commander Day met with military leaders from every species, analyzing their ships, their tactics, their strengths and weaknesses. He was direct to the point of rudeness, but he was also brilliant. He saw patterns and possibilities that no one else could see. Engineer Jiwan opened her workshops to scientists from across the galaxy. She showed them human technology, not the most advanced systems, but enough to make a difference. Hybrid weapons that combined human precision with alien innovation. Shield modifications that made ships harder to kill. Communication systems that allowed fleets to coordinate like never before. And in a quiet corner of the council archives, Yuna found herself working alongside a human named Lieutenant Suji. She was a pilot, grounded temporarily to help with intelligence analysis. She was young, energetic, and she laughed easily. You found us, Suji said, looking at the data Yuna had collected. You looked at myths and legends and decided to believe. That's brave. I just wanted to know the truth, Yuna replied. The truth is we're here now, and we're not leaving until this is finished. On the outer rim, the Ravagers continued their advance. But for the first time in months, they met real resistance. Human-led fleets struck fast and hard using tactics the Ravagers hadn't seen before. Systems that had been marked for destruction held firm. The tide hadn't turned yet, but it had stopped rising. And in the dark spaces between stars, something stirred. The Ravagers' central intelligence had noticed the change. It had detected the human ships and recognized their energy signatures. The swarms had feared these creatures once. The Ravagers would not make the same mistake. They began to adapt. The Battle of Korthan system became the turning point. Though no one knew it at the time, Commander Day stood in the Fleet Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing hundreds of ships from 24 different species. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's return, and this was the first major coordinated offensive against the Ravagers. All units, maintain formation Delta 7. Day ordered calmly. Around him, alien officers who had commanded fleets for decades followed the instructions of a human. Most of them had never heard of until recently. Some did so grudgingly. Others had learned to trust his strange tactics. The Ravagers held Korthan system with 3 hive ships, massive structures that spawned smaller attack vessels constantly. Previous attempts to retake the system had failed spectacularly. The enemy adapted too quickly, learning from each attack and countering with devastating efficiency. Day's plan was different. He split the fleet into 7 groups, each with a mix of human and alien ships. Each group used completely different tactics. When the Ravagers adapted to stop one group, another would strike from a different angle with a different approach. Group 3. Begin your run. Group 5. Hold position. Group 7. Activate electronic warfare protocols. Yuna watched from the observation deck of Admiral Nari's flagship. Beside her, Minho gripped the railing tightly. It's like watching someone play 7 different games at once, Minho muttered. How does he track all of this? Human neural enhancement, Engineer Jiwon explained. She had come to watch as well. Commander Day's brain processes information faster than standard human baseline. It's military technology we developed during our exile. Not everyone can handle it, but those who can become exceptional tactical minds. On the displays, the battle unfolded like a deadly dance. The Ravagers tried to adapt, but every time they focused on one group, another would exploit the opening. Their hive ships began to show damage. Their spawn rate decreased. Group 2, push forward. Group 6, flank left and target their communication nodes. Lieutenant Suji led Group 6, a squadron of fighters that moved like a swarm of angry insects. Her voice came over the command channel, excited and focused. Copy that, Commander. Going in hot. Yuna had watched Suji train with other pilots over the past weeks. The young human woman flew in ways that seemed impossible, pulling maneuvers that would kill most species from the G-forces alone. Her reflexes were augmented, her nervous system enhanced to handle the stress of combat flying. Other pilots tried to copy her techniques. Some succeeded. Many didn't survive their first attempts. But those who could keep up with Suji's pace became legends themselves. The fighter squadron punched through Ravager defenses and destroyed 2 communication nodes. The enemy's coordination faltered. In that moment of confusion, all 7 fleet groups struck together. The largest Ravager hive ship exploded in a bloom of fire that lit up the system. The other 2 tried to retreat, but human ships were faster. They died quickly, efficiently. System secure, Commander Day announced. His voice was tired but satisfied. Good work, everyone. Begin search and rescue operations for any survivors from the colony. The command center erupted in cheers. Officers from species who had never celebrated together were hugging, clicking mandibles, flashing skin colors in joy. They had won. For the first time since the Ravagers appeared, they had won decisively. Admiral Nari found Day after the battle. He was reviewing the engagement data, already analyzing what they could do better next time. Take a break, she ordered gently. You've earned it. They adapted slower than I expected, Day replied, still focused on his screens. They're not as sophisticated as the swarms were. Or maybe they just haven't accessed that knowledge yet. That last part worried everyone. Intelligence reports suggested the Ravagers were searching old battlefields, looking for data cores from destroyed swarm ships. If they found what they were looking for, they might become much more dangerous. Engineer Jiwon worked tirelessly to stay ahead of that possibility. In her workshops, she collaborated with alien engineers to create hybrid technology that combined the best of multiple species innovations. A Telkaran shield generator powered by human energy cells, Kexian sensors linked to human targeting computers, weapons that used principles from 6 different scientific traditions. The galaxy has brilliant minds, Jiwon told Yuna during one of their work sessions. You just never shared your knowledge with each other. Everyone kept their best technology secret, afraid someone else would use it against them. That kind of thinking makes you weak. And humans share everything? Yuna asked. Jiwon smiled. With our allies, yes. We learned that lesson the hard way. During the swarm wars, we tried to fight alone at first. It nearly destroyed us. When we finally started working with other species, really working together, we began to win. Captain Hyun's ship, the Wandering Star, became a testing ground for these hybrid technologies. His vessel was fast to begin with, but with human upgrades it became something extraordinary. Hyun joined an elite strike force that handled special operations, hitting Ravager positions that larger fleets couldn't reach. It's like flying a completely different ship, Hyun reported after his first mission with the upgrades. The power, the speed, the precision. I understand now why humans were legends. They don't just fight well. They make everyone around them fight better. The victories continued. System after system was liberated. Refugees returned to their homes. Hope spread through the galaxy like light pushing back darkness. But Minho noticed something troubling in his analysis of the battles. Look at this pattern, he showed Yuna and Engineer Jiwon one evening. Every time we destroy a Ravager force, a few ships escape. Not many, maybe 1 or 2, and they always flee toward the same region of space here. He highlighted a section of the map deep in uncharted territory. They're gathering, Jiwon said quietly. Building something big. She brought the data to Admiral Nari and Commander Day. They studied it in grim silence. It's a nexus point, Day concluded. They're pooling their resources, their intelligence. Everything they've learned from fighting us, they're taking it there. And the swarm data they've been collecting, Nari added. If they have it, that's where they'll integrate it. We need to hit them before they finish, Day said. Agreed. But it's a trap. They know we've been winning. They're consolidating to draw us into one massive battle. So we give them what they want. We hit them with everything we have. Nari stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. There's something else. I've been studying the Ravager behavior. They're not just collecting swarm data. They're trying to become a new swarm. The same threat we barely defeated last time. She turned back to face them. If that happens, if they succeed, conventional weapons won't stop them. We'll need the severance device. The room went silent. Yuna, who had clearance to attend these meetings now, didn't know what that meant. But she saw how the humans reacted. Fear, resignation, and determination mixed together. What's the severance device? She asked quietly. Engineer Jiwon answered. During the swarm wars, we discovered that the swarms operated on a kind of quantum consciousness. Kill the ships and more would grow, but sever that consciousness permanently and they'd become inert. We built a weapon to do exactly that. That sounds like a good thing, Yuna said, confused by their reactions. It is. Except the weapon nearly killed us too, Admiral Nari explained. It doesn't just target the enemy. It disrupts neural patterns in a wide radius. During its test firing, 3 million humans died instantly. Their brains just stopped. We refined it, made it more focused, but it's still incredibly dangerous. It's why we left, Commander Day added. We used it to destroy the last swarm hive, and the backlash nearly wiped out our entire species. We couldn't risk staying here. Couldn't risk needing to use it again because another activation might finish what the swarm started. And now? Minho asked. Now we're stronger, Nari said. We have medical technology to protect our people. We have better shielding. We have more humans. If we have to use the severance device, we'll survive it. But will we? Yuna asked. Will the rest of the galaxy survive it? That was the terrible question. The weapon that could save them might also doom them. Over the next month, preparations began. Every ship was upgraded. Every pilot trained in new tactics. Every soldier readied for the largest battle in galactic history. The combined fleet grew to 10,000 vessels, the biggest military force ever assembled. Lieutenant Suji spent her time training new pilots, teaching them tricks that might keep them alive in the battle to come. She had become something of a celebrity. with young warriors from every species wanting to learn from her. Captain Hyun led missions to scout the Ravager Nexus, bringing back intelligence about its size and defenses. "It's massive," he reported. "Bigger than anything we've faced. They've built it from the remains of 1,000 worlds, maybe more. Then we'll hit it with 1,000 ships," Commander Day replied. Admiral Nari called a final meeting before the assault. Everyone was there. Military leaders from every species, the Galactic Council representatives, and the humans who had come back to fight. "This is it," Nari said simply. "Tomorrow we end this threat. One way or another, the Ravagers will fall." The Ravager Nexus hung in space like a nightmare made solid. It was built from the corpses of worlds. Metal and rock and organic matter fused together into a structure that stretched across millions of kilometers. It pulsed with sickly light, and even from a distance, sensors detected the hive consciousness growing stronger within it. 10,000 ships from 40 species assembled at the rally point. The combined fleet dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human vessels formed the core, but around them flew ships of every design imaginable, all united by a single purpose. Commander Day stood in the command center, his enhanced mind processing data from thousands of sources simultaneously. Beside him, Admiral Nari watched the displays with calm determination. On ships throughout the fleet, millions of beings waited for the order to attack. "All units, this is Commander Day. You know the plan. We have 3 objectives. First, destroy the outer defenses. Second, penetrate to the Nexus core. Third, deploy the severance device. The Ravagers will throw everything they have at us. They've been preparing for this as much as we have, but they're counting on us fighting like we did before. They're wrong. We fight together now. We fight as one." He paused, then added something that wasn't in the planned speech. "Humans have a saying, once more into forever. It means that some battles are so important they echo through all of time. This is one of those battles. Whatever happens today, the galaxy will remember. Now let's make sure they remember a victory. All units advance." The fleet moved forward like a wave of metal and energy. The Ravager Nexus responded immediately, spawning thousands of attack ships from its surface. They poured out like locusts, swarming toward the advancing fleet. Lieutenant Suji led the first fighter wave. "All wings, stay tight. Remember your training. Don't try to be heroes. Stay alive and keep your wingmates alive." Her squadron hit the Ravager fighters at full speed. The battle exploded into chaos, ships weaving and dodging and dying. But Suji's pilots held formation, supporting each other, using the tactics she'd drilled into them for weeks. When one pilot got into trouble, 2 others covered them. When an opening appeared, 3 ships exploited it together. "This is incredible," her wingmate transmitted. "We're actually winning." "Don't get confident," Suji replied, blasting another enemy ship. "Stay focused." On the main battle line, capital ships exchanged fire with Ravager defense platforms. Energy beams and missiles crossed the void. Ships died on both sides, brilliant flashes marking each loss, but the combined fleet pushed forward meter by meter, absorbing losses but not breaking. Captain Hyun's strike force slipped around the main battle, using the chaos as cover. His mission was crucial: disable the Ravager communication nodes to prevent them from coordinating their defenses. "Approaching first target," he reported. His ship, the Wandering Star, moved with impossible grace for something its size, dancing between enemy fire. Going in, his weapons tore through the communication node in seconds. Across the Nexus, Ravager coordination faltered slightly. Other strike teams hit their targets simultaneously, creating pockets of confusion in the enemy's response. In the command center, Commander Day watched the battle unfold like a master watching a complex game. He issued orders constantly, adjusting the plan in real time as the situation changed. His enhanced mind caught patterns that no one else could see. Group 7, shift angle by 15 degrees. Group 12, hold fire for 30 seconds then volley. Group 4, you have an opening on your left flank, exploit it now. Admiral Nari monitored the casualty reports. They were losing ships, losing people. The numbers climbed steadily. But they were also advancing, getting closer to the core. "We're taking heavy losses," her aide reported. "I know, but we're still on schedule." "Commander, how long until we can deploy the device?" 20 minutes at current pace, Day replied. "But they're not going to make it easy." He was right. The Ravager Nexus suddenly shifted tactics. The outer layers of the structure began to move, reconfiguring themselves. Massive weapons emerged from the surface, platforms as large as cities. They're activating swarm technology, Engineer Jiwon called out from her station. Energy readings are off the scale. They've integrated it. They're becoming the new swarm. The weapons fired. Beams of energy that could vaporize entire ships lanced through the fleet. Hundreds of vessels died in seconds. The advance slowed, then stopped. All units, evasive maneuvers, Day ordered. His voice remained calm, but Yuna, watching from the observation deck, could see the tension in his shoulders. Jiwon, can we counter those weapons? Not directly. But if we overload our shields and focus them into narrow-band projections, we might be able to deflect the beams long enough to get close. Do it. Transmit the modification to all ships. Engineers across the fleet worked frantically to reconfigure their shields. It was risky, leaving ships vulnerable to conventional weapons while they focused everything on countering the swarm beams. But it worked. Ships began to advance again, deflecting the massive energy blasts. Suji's fighter wing pushed deeper into the Nexus's interior. They flew through corridors of twisted metal and organic matter, hunting for the insertion point where the severance device would be deployed. Found it, Suji transmitted. Coordinates transmitting now. But it's heavily defended. We're going to need covering fire. On our way, Captain Hyun replied. His strike force accelerated, joining the fighters in the depths of the Nexus. Together they carved a path through the defenses, losing ships with every meter gained. Minho was on the ship carrying the severance device. He'd insisted on coming, claiming that as a historian he needed to witness this. Yuna suspected he just wanted to be useful, to contribute somehow to this battle. Approaching insertion point, the pilot announced. We're taking fire. Keep going, the mission commander ordered. We only get one shot at this. The ship shuddered as enemy fire struck the shields. Warning alarms blared, but they pushed through, protected by Suji's fighters and Hyun's strike force, bought with the blood of pilots who gave their lives to clear the path. Insertion point reached. Deploying device. The severance device emerged from the ship's cargo bay, a sphere of exotic matter and complex technology. It descended into the Nexus core on anti-gravity fields, settling into place among the Ravager's central processing nodes. Device in position, Minho reported. Arming sequence initiated. In the command center, Engineer Jiwon monitored the device's status. Arming complete. Ready for activation. But Commander, someone needs to stay within range to trigger it manually. The signal delay is too great for remote detonation. Commander Day didn't hesitate. I'll do it. Plot me a course to the device location. No, Admiral Nari said firmly. You're needed to lead. I'll go. With respect, Admiral, the fleet needs you more than it needs me. I'm a tactical officer. You're a leader. When this is over, the galaxy is going to need someone to show them how to move forward. That's you, not me. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Nari nodded. Get it done, Commander. Always do, Day replied. He turned to leave, but Minho's voice stopped him. Wait, I'm going with you. That's not necessary. Maybe not, but someone needs to record this. Someone needs to witness what happens here, so the galaxy knows the truth. That's what historians do. We remember. Day smiled slightly. Then let's go make history. They took a fast transport ship racing toward the Nexus core. Behind them, the battle raged on. Admiral Nari commanded the fleet with precision, keeping the Ravagers occupied, preventing them from realizing what was about to happen. Suji and Hyun's forces escorted the transport as deep as they could go. When they could go no further, Suji transmitted a final message. Good luck, Commander. Make it count, I will. All ships pull back. Get clear of the blast radius. You have 5 minutes. The fleet began to retreat, fighting every meter. The Ravagers sensed something was wrong, pressed their attack harder. Ships died, covering the retreat. Day and Minho reached the device. The Nexus core writhed around them. Organic and mechanical merged together. The hive consciousness was almost fully formed. They could feel it, a presence that pressed against their minds. Activating in 30 seconds, Day said, his hands moving across the device controls. You should go. We stay together, Minho replied. We witnessed together 20 seconds. The Nexus core began to understand what was happening. Tendrils of organic matter reached for them. Day drew his weapon and fired, buying time. 10 seconds. The fleet had cleared the immediate blast radius. Millions watched on sensors and displays, holding their breath. 5 seconds. Day looked at Minho. It's been an honor. Likewise, Minho replied. 0. The severance device activated. Energy exploded outward, not the violent explosion of a bomb, but something stranger and more terrible. It was energy that existed between dimensions, that reached into the quantum consciousness binding the Ravagers together and severed every connection simultaneously. The effect was instantaneous. Across the entire nexus, across every Ravager ship in the galaxy, the hive mind shattered. Ships went dark. The massive structure began to collapse in on itself, no longer held together by the consciousness that had built it. In the command center, Engineer Jiwan watched the readings with mounting horror. The backlash is stronger than we calculated. Anyone within the inner radius